Welcome back to the Still Curtain podcast. It's Sunday, September 28th, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-1 after a 24-21 win over the Minnesota Vikings at Croke Park in Dublin, Ireland. I'm Josh Yourish, and once again, I'm joined by FanSided's Mark Powell to talk about what we just saw. And Mark, I'm going to start here. I had in my notes late in the fourth quarter, I was digging back through and I dug up that this was the Steelers' first was going to be the Steelers' first 2-score win since week 14 versus Cleveland and Jameis Winston last season, but it was not to be. The Vikings stormed back with 15 points in the fourth quarter, and we have to start with the fourth down decision-making from Mike Tomlin. I have tons of thoughts. I'm sure we share a lot of opinions on it. We'll start with the second one. We can relitigate the fourth down near the end zone as well. But should the Steelers have gone for it on 4th and 1 from the 40-yard line in the fourth quarter to put the game on ice?
I mean, yeah. I get that the standard is the standard, and, we always have to win by, I guess one possession or less. But, when you have a chance to ice the game and the Vikings have already scored multiple times to kind of, put themselves back in the game there. Mm-hmm. I understand that, Aaron Rodgers is fragile at this point in his career. He's a 41-year-old quarterback, but we saw them do a tush push with Washington earlier in the game or something similar to that. They need to have a plan for that sort of situation. It seems like right now they don't. And, they're very lucky to have gotten away with it in this game, I think. It helps when you're playing Carson Wentz.
It definitely helps.
It definitely helps, right? I think, hopefully a bit of a wake-up call for the coaching staff, especially, Arthur Smith and co, that they need a plan for these, 4th and inches situations where they would normally run a QB sneak, because I don't think Rodgers
they had really it though. I mean, you mentioned it. They had it with the Jonnu Smith tush push. They already did it. They already showed you the thing that they needed to do to gain the 1 yard. They were averaging over 5 yards a clip on the ground in this game. This is the rushing performance we've been begging for. And you get to 4th and 1. And to me, the thing that's malpractice about it, because it is malpractice to punt that ball away, is that you don't even try to pin them. You have Corliss Waitman go out there and clearly kick a touchback. Clearly the directive from the sideline was to kick it out of the end zone and just don't let them have a chance at a return, which, okay, you are now doing that for 20 yards of field position. You had a chance to end the game by gaining a half yard, and you gave that up to take an intentional delay of game and punt the ball for 20 yards of field position. That is malpractice. We see these other teams, the Eagles, the Lions, all the good teams in the NFL. 4th down aggressiveness is everything, not just because you're getting those conversions, but it changes what you can do on 3rd down. And I think we even saw that they were setting it up, right? They ran on the inside, nothing creative. You get yourself within range. Okay, you get stuffed, but that's because you have 2 downs. That's totally fine. Do it again. Do the exact same thing again. All you have to do is gain a half yard. And they don't. They take forever to make the decision. Tomlin, if he had a timeout left, he didn't. He would have taken a think it over timeout, which are my least favorite, especially in close games when you might need them. So he didn't have the opportunity to take a think it over timeout. They basically took one anyways and got the delay of game because they couldn't get the offense out there in time. I don't know if they intended to snap it or not, but wow, that is terrible decision-making. I saw the numbers from ESPN Analytics. Seth Walder posted on Blue Sky. It was a plus 1.2 win probability added to go for it versus punting, which is not massive, but that's because they were already 90 plus regardless. So in that situation in the game, the Vikings not having many timeouts, the results do not dictate whether it was a good decision or not. They escaped. And as you said, they escaped because it's Carson Wentz on the other side. What did you think about the other 4th down call? I can pull it up to set the scene on that one as well in the red zone, which also took some time, took some decisions to think it over.
Yeah.
From goal, Minnesota 3, a Kenneth Gainwell run for 2 yards to the 1. This was with 4:14 remaining in the fourth quarter, and the 24-14 lead at that time before the blown coverage, before Minnesota scored what was ultimately its final touchdown. Would you have left the offense out there? And I think I know the answer. If it is similar to mine at all, what would your play, like, not specifically what would your play call have been, but would you have just ran it on the inside with Kenneth Gainwell again? Because I don't think so.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's one of those things where I like the thought process, and it seems like it took a lot of begging from Rodgers to make it happen in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire offense is like literally waving off the kicking team for him, which I think says a lot about Tomlin's mentality. I mean, he talks a lot about not playing in his fears.
He lives in his fears more than any head coach in the NFL.
And I don't understand. So, I like the thought. I hate the call. I would have, definitely, put the ball in Rodgers' hands there. Get your best players involved, guys like DK, guys like Jonnu Smith. And if they make a stop there, fine. At least you tried and you ran your best play. But that Gainwell run, I didn't fully understand. It seemed kind of like a last second call because he was planning to kick.
That's what it felt like.
And then he was like, "Oh crap, I have to,
get
do something here."
In here, Arthur.
So, I think it just doesn't make sense to me, like how you can go for it there and then not go for it on the second attempt. You know what I mean? Like where he surrender punted. Like, you have to be consistent there. It's just, if you kick, then okay, you just trust your defense, like whatever. I don't agree with it, but at least I can understand a bit. I just hate the lack of consistency there. And definitely hate the play call on that first fourth down. Don't really get it.
I am thrilled they went for it because you're ultimately, in my opinion, you're better off, and it resulted in a Minnesota touchdown. They had the blown coverage, the Jordan Addison long play. Still, we're not playing the results. We're playing the decision in the moment. I would prefer to be up 10 with Minnesota at its own 2-1, wherever, on the goal line, 3, even if it's the 3 and you throw and it's incomplete. I would prefer that than to be up 13 and them have the ball at the 30. Because it's still a 2-score game. Like, kicking there makes absolutely no sense. And the fact that Rodgers had to plead for it as hard as he did is insane to me. That field goal makes a 2-score game. If you kick that field goal, it makes a 2-score game a 2-score game. Like, again, would have been malpractice. The run play, you've been running it really well. I agree with you. It felt like just get a call in here. Like, it was just so simple. I'm fine with running the ball, but from 3 yards out, like, that felt like a bit of a concession as well. That felt almost like let's just pin them a little bit deeper and make this drive even harder, which again is probably not, that's living in your fears. That's not being aggressive, but it's better to me than kicking the field goal still. Even if your intention was to go down at the 1, like, tell Gainwell, fall down at the 1, which would be stupid. Obviously you want to score the touchdown, but even if that was your intention, I prefer that to kicking the field goal. So I'm great with that, going for it, play call. Okay. The other one, you'll never convince me makes any sense at all. And this is a game, as we can try to pivot, we can start to pivot to other things 10 minutes in, talking about these fourth down decisions. I didn't think we were going to have to talk about this stuff because this team looked good. In the first half, this team looked really good. The offense was humming. I'll give you the decision. Do you want to talk about the offense first? Do you want to talk about the defense first? But this was, until the end, with the poor decision-making, like, in my opinion, Tomlin let the Vikings back into this one. It should have been a comfortable victory and one that makes me finally stop being so pessimistic. We haven't had you for a couple weeks. I haven't gotten bright and cheery since you've been gone. Like, I still think this team is deeply flawed.
Yeah.
I am encouraged. I was going to be more encouraged The head coach is still a big detriment to this team winning in any big way. But I am still encouraged by what I saw ultimately on both sides of the ball. Which direction would you like to go with it?
Let's start with the offense. Let's start with the offense, because I know that we've had some I wouldn't call them disagreements about Aaron, but just like
Well, we've had I'm about as down on him as you could possibly be, and you're
I'm like middle
in a more
of the
neutral,
ground. Yeah.
in a more neutral spot.
Yeah.
A more reasoned neutral spot. What's your assessment today of the offense as a whole? We can dig into Rodgers. I like digging into Rodgers a little. I mean, obviously we're going to talk about him, but I like deep diving it a little bit later individually.
Yeah.
But the offense as a whole, like, what was your takeaway?
Definitely encouraged. I mean, I was a bit discouraged with the offensive line early. I thought there were a few plays, especially in pass protection, that we see them every week at this point, where it's just like, what are you doing? Especially on like the interior this week. Weirdly, like it wasn't Broderick or like Fautadu. It was like, it was guys on the interior, and I was just like, complete like missed assignments. However, after that, they cleaned it up pretty quickly. I thought their run blocking, really, really great. I thought, considering Warren was out this game, I think the biggest winner from this game for me is definitely Kenny Gainwell. I mean, I think he earns himself. I mean, he already had a big role on this team, but like at this point, I'd make sure to give him, pretty much, I don't want to say half the carries, but like close to it. I mean, he looked awesome. Now, the Vikings' run defense is a bit shoddy as compared to their pass defense, so you have to kind of take that into account. However, definitely encouraged with the run game, their ability to kind of impose their will in that department, and I liked the passing play calling, because like I mean, we've talked about Rodgers ad nauseum, but these quick drops, get the ball out of his hand quickly, is where he thrives, especially at this point in his career. And like the fact that they were able to get separation so early, especially DK, was great in my mind. So really only good things. I just hope that like they can sort of carry it over. Obviously,
that's where I'll introduce a bit of in my opinion, it's realism. It can be seen as pessimism. I still don't think it's sustainable, right? Kenneth Gainwell, as you mentioned, 19 for 99, 2 touchdowns, was important in the passing game as well. The quick passing, the quick drops, get it out of your hands, yard after the catch stuff. I just think your margin for error is so incredibly slim when that's the way you're living. And it worked really well in this specific matchup. And I'm surprised that it did. So going through, like, as you mentioned, some of those missed assignments and things early, Rodgers struggled against this defense last year when he was with the Jets. And Flores brings a lot of exotics. He has a lot of bodies at the line of scrimmage. He's going to drop out into zones. He didn't handle it well a year ago. And I was intrigued to see how, because I'm not so high on him as commander-in-chief of the offense situation, putting everyone the chessboard type of stuff. I thought he did a really good job. After some of the misassignments early, I thought Rodgers recognized when he had to get the ball out quickly. I mean, that's all he wants to do because he doesn't want to get hit. But he slid the protections well. Like, I think he was really in command. I think he was also motivated. Rodgers is a scary guy. Like, I think he wanted to be on that team. This offseason.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the team he wanted to be on, not the Steelers. So I think he was saying, oh, you thought JJ McCarthy, now you're stuck with Carson Wentz. Come get a little bit of this. So I've tried to talk about like what I see as potential solutions for this offense. And the only one I feel is sustainable is to actually run the ball like really well, especially from under center. And the quick game stuff is going to come and it's going to go. I think you can scheme defensively to take a lot of that away. Minnesota didn't want to because it takes them out of their exotics and their blitz stuff. I think the way they ran the ball works really well specifically against this defense because Flores is bring a lot of heat or drop 8. The way to beat both of that is to just run it down their throat. And the Steelers were so intentional about bringing Spencer Anderson in as the extra offensive lineman. Darnell Washington played damn near every snap. Like we've talked about Freiermuth and Jonnu. Washington was out there constantly today. I loved that. I think getting more big bodies and the more condensed sets, like they ran out of a lot of tight splits today. And I think you can do that when your receivers can be DK Metcalf and Ben Skoranek, and you can have Darnell Washington and Spencer Anderson and Connor Hayward. Like, you just have so much mass. So lean into that. Be big, be physical. And they finally were. And I loved that. It was a little bit backwards from like my idea of you establish that first, you throw off of it, maybe you hit some deep shots. They were going quick game early and then ran the ball. I don't care. It was a really efficient offensive performance.
Yeah. I was encouraged with, I guess, two adjustments they made specifically. The first one is what you mentioned, where like they very much committed to their identity. Feel like they need to do that moving forward. They know that like they don't have a wide receiver too who's going to be able to beat a guy off like the line of scrimmage. Sorry, bro. Finally, optimism. The Steelers look good. It's true. It's
just
true
wanted to.
I'm trying.
Give Grayson Brown a shout because he's put up with a lot of my pessimism and hasn't enjoyed it in the chat and been vocal about it. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're appreciating the pod. Just wanted to bring that up. Didn't want to derail you.
Yeah. So definitely was encouraged by that, because like that's just what they are. That's what Arthur Smith's offense is. Like, don't pretend to be something you're not. If they're going to win, if they're going to, somehow win a playoff game this year, which is what we talked about before the year, it's going to happen that way. Like it's not going to happen any other way. So definitely liked the amount that they use Washington as well. I think he's a real weapon, especially in like the run game. So that was fantastic.
I think he's a better run blocker than Broderick Jones, frankly. Like it's just flat out.
That's not a good look for Broderick, but you're probably right about that one. And then the second adjustment that I liked a lot was the broadcast actually pointed out how they moved DK to the slot a bit more. Which I think they're just going to have to do because they need him to run quicker routes and make plays after the catch because he's just not going to have time to go deep on most plays, So that was encouraging. It's nice to see Arthur Smith just trying some things out, frankly, because like the offense can get pretty stale at times, and it felt like their adjustments worked this week. I mean, I think it's fair to say,
Yeah, I think it would have been plus maybe 2,000 odds that Arthur Smith would outduel Brian Flores on, schematically in this matchup. And I think he did. Like, I think he actually had really good answers for their exotic pressure looks with the extra offensive linemen and essentially 7 offensive line looks with Anderson and Washington. As you mentioned, moving DK around. I love that. Yeah. Like, if he has to be this yards after the catch guy, get him over the middle of the field more. Like, they were able to actually attack that. And then we saw the explosive come out of it with the 80-yard catch and run touchdown. That's all the encouraging stuff that I've been begging for from this assembly of talent on the offense. And I'll ask you, like, was I just too early with my pessimism and this thing is going to start gelling together? You got a lot of new pieces. You got a new quarterback that showed up just at training camp. Like, was I jumping the gun and you feel like there's even more as this goes together? Or do you think this is maybe a blip offensively?
I feel like we're going to make Grayson a little mad here. I wouldn't say it's a blip. Like, I do think this offense has some potential. Are they as good as we saw today? Are they going to be as productive as this most weeks? I'd probably say no. I do like the adjustments made. I think heading into the bye, this is a great performance. Hopefully they can make even more adjustments after this. I think they have the Browns and Bengals after that, and those are 2 very important, divisional matchups there. Yeah. So it's a mix, right? There's things from this game that you can absolutely take from it. The ability to run the ball. I loved what I saw from Gainwell and Johnson, honestly, today. Like, it was nice seeing him finally do something in the run game.
Yeah, and
actually
give him
be trusted.
Couple of opportunities.
Yeah, and actually be trusted. Like, maybe that's a sign of what's to come. They can have a deep backfield. So yeah, definitely loved seeing them commit to their identity. Like I said, like I feel like that's just, that's what this team is going to have to be. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But like, they're not going to win with Rodgers dropping back 30, 40 times a game, right? Like that's just not how this team is built. So
Rodgers, we can dig into him a little bit more specifically now. Finished 18 for 22, 200 yards, 9.1 yards per attempt, a touchdown, was sacked twice. In my opinion, this was clearly his best game. And there, as a Steeler. And there weren't like big throws, right? After his 4 touchdown performance in week 1, the first thing I asked you when we started talking about Rodgers was, what impressive throw did he make? And really, other than the one that was called back for a penalty where it was a bomb to Frymouth in that game, there wasn't one. Like, it was just all schemed up stuff and play action against a bad defense. This week, I feel somewhat similarly. I don't think that there were any like huge throws where you're like, that's the Rodgers of old. Like, there's that arm strength. There was a little bit of creation outside of the pocket. He scrambled. My boy scrambled. My boy got running, and then it almost turned bad quick with the fumble that Broderick Jones recovered. But this is who he has to be. Like, this is who you have to be as a 41-year-old. I would like there to be a bit more stuff schemed up deep, but like, you got to protect when you do it. But I think that can come. Like, I think they had so much success with the quick game in this one, and then they were running the ball so well. There's no point in taking shots in the second half. You got your shots out of the quick game and the yards after the catch in the first half. I do think there's a world in which you're bringing that heavy personnel in. You've shown it for a week, 2 weeks, coming out of the bye. Okay, now we block it up, and let's take an actual shot, because there were a couple deep sideline throws to DK, or there was one and then they over the middle, but those are still like quick drops and quick releases. Sometimes I think you need like longer developing routes, especially on third downs. I don't think this offense is particularly viable on 3rd and long.
No.
And I don't think that's ever going to change. It's just the nature of a 41-year-old quarterback that doesn't want to be hit. But I'm encouraged, right? Like, I don't think this is Russell Wilson against the Bengals last year, where we all lost our minds, and myself collective, like included, okay, maybe this team can win a playoff game. Maybe he found something, but really it was just deep ball variance against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Like, this defense is legit, and Rodgers actually had answers. So I'm really actually encouraged.
Yeah, same. To your point, I think some of those like late developing routes, those like long developing routes will come probably after the bye, I think.
It just depends on being able to block it up. And I just don't know that that's ever going to happen.
I think doing that on play action out of the heavy sets is probably the best way to do it, because that's really the only way I see him having that amount of time, based off of what we've seen from this offensive line through 4 weeks pass blocking. I don't think you could just go in like a normal shotgun 4 wide and have, like some like double moves. Like, that's not going to happen, so doing that out of play, out of play action, maybe involving the tight ends a bit could work. I have a stat for you here from Kevin Seifert of ESPN. Per ESPN research, Aaron Rodgers averaged 2.17 seconds before throwing, his lowest time since it was first tracked in 2016. That's how you beat pressure. So, to our point about quick throws, this was literally the best he's done it so far this year. I think he's just kind of, I do like, he understands his own limitations. I think
he's starting to.
Yeah, he's starting to understand his own limitations, and I think that's something that Russ never did.
No,
and still doesn't. Obviously,
that boy still thinks it's 2013.
Yeah. So, I don't think we're gonna. Hopefully, we don't run into a situation where, Rodgers is getting sacked 6 to 7 times a game regularly. I like to think that the offense is schemed in a way for him to get rid of the ball. Now, whether that means turnovers or whatever, you can't predict. But this was definitely a solid game from him. Probably his best game, to your point. Especially when you factor in the defense he was up against and the pass defense he was up against, frankly.
Yeah.
One of the best pass defenses in the league, arguably, at least so far this season.
Yeah, I want to dig into the air yards to the sticks number is one that I've been honing in on a lot, especially in the Monday shows, of just like, okay, eventually you have to throw it to the sticks, especially on late downs. Like everything can't be underneath. We can't Kirk Cousins this thing up because we know what happens eventually in that type of system. Like you can only break so many tackles. But the Steelers are kind of designed to break a lot of tackles. Like they have a lot of big bodies, a lot of physicality. I think they're figuring out, you said he's recognizing his limitations. I also think him and Arthur Smith together are recognizing what this offense is the strengths of this offense are, right? You can get in these tight splits because your receivers are going to block the hell out of any defensive back, right? And you can start to run to the edges that way. You can start, the pitches were working today because you have so much physicality just all over the place. So I'm encouraged. I still don't think it's like truly sustainable as one of the better offenses in the NFL. I'm not going to go there. Like 1 week is not going to change my opinion on this. I think there are still structural issues with the offensive line, with his lack of mobility that are going to crop up in a lot of games. But it didn't in this one. And a big reason it didn't in this one is because the defense looked a lot better for most of the game. 15 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Had you biting some fingernails off a little bit. What are your thoughts on that side of the ball? And maybe we lead with my boy, who's the best pass rusher on this team, Nick Herbig. But you can go wherever you want. We're going to talk about him.
No, I was really impressed with Herbig. There was obviously no Highsmith this week, right? So that's something that you talked about before the year. You were like mixing in Herbig more for Highsmith, for Watt, giving those guys breaks. I obviously didn't have to this week because Highsmith didn't play, but the fact that it was kind of just plug and play there speaks a lot to Herbig, because Highsmith is a Pro Bowl caliber pass rusher at his best, right?
Yeah, and I mean he had 8 pressures in week 1. Like he was dominant before he got hurt.
Yeah. So like the fact that Herbig is, we don't notice a huge difference there, at least like eye test wise, is impressive. So I was super happy with him. Was happy with the secondary for most of this game. I thought Deshaun Elliott, really played pretty well this week.
I think you saw his value so much.
Yeah, he was one of the highlights for me. I love Ramsey's kind of leadership back there. Obviously he got hurt, but when he was in, I loved his I think the one thing I've noticed about the secondary the last few weeks is they, outside the fourth quarter probably, but they've been communicating a lot on the back end. And that's made a big difference, I think, especially.
They had a lot of issues with that last season, and some people said maybe that was a Minka Fitzpatrick thing.
Yeah. So I think
maybe it was a Beanie Bishop thing. Like I don't know who it was, but they've turned over a lot in that secondary, and they still don't have Joey Porter Jr., another player that was out. I think, there are a lot of different like positives that I can give. Like the linebackers played better. I thought the secondary looked good. Like you love Elliott being in there. Derek Harmon getting his hand on a ball that was led to the Deshaun Elliott interception. I want to, though, before I get into those positives, couch the whole conversation in the fact that the Vikings came into this game without starting left guard Donovan Jackson. Here's me raining on a parade again.
Let's go.
Lost starting center Ryan Kelly early in the first half, and lost right tackle Brian O'Neill early in the first half. Those losses are massive. Tackles, and Donovan Jackson, obviously, I think he's a great player. Like I was super high on him in the draft. He was great at Ohio State. He's been good for them early this season. But in game, to lose a tackle and a center, That's just so incredibly difficult to solve that problem. You don't have the game plan of, I mean, you're already planning to chip to TJ's side and things of that nature. I think we saw the result of that with a quarterback who's never been great under pressure, who has always had the tendency to try to make, chicken soup out of, and leads into a lot of turnovers and sacks and things like that. Like, I think it was the perfect storm for a 6-sack game, and yet you still got it. And a lot of it came from Nick Herbig winning one-on-ones against Christian Darrisaw, who is one of the best left tackles. I mean, he's coming off of injury. He's finally, last week he made his return. You assume you're a little bit better a week into that. Herbig just, I think, ate his lunch all day. Like, he just wins with so much. He's so fast off the edge. And the way Greg Olsen did a great job displaying how they were kind of having TJ work to the inside and having Herbig run these big loops so he could rush with his speed and really use that to his advantage, and how they were kind of collapsing things to try to flush Wentz to his right. And Herbig had his first sack was a chase down that way. I think the plan is set up in a lot of ways for, like, this dude wins all the time. So let's get him one-on-ones and let's get him after the quarterback on his blind side. And yes, TJ, your numbers might suffer a little bit. And TJ had the interception. Like, I think he had a really good game. But in my opinion, just like straight up pass rusher, Herbig is the best one on this team. And you need guys like that. Keanu Benton was better today, but like, he hasn't developed after a promising rookie year. We haven't really seen Joey Porter Jr., but his sophomore year kind of took a step back. Those younger guys, because he's not even young anymore, he's in his third year with Herbig, taking a step is how this defense will maybe play like the most expensive defense in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers now have 3 outside linebacker pass rushers who can ruin your day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is massive. And will help this defense play, like, to your point, the highest priced defense in the league. This might have been their all, I'd say. But again, gotta, not to rain on the parade, but it is against a guy like Wentz, who the Steelers tend to thrive against.
Yeah.
So I'll take it with a grain of salt, because my issue with the Steelers defense in the past has been when they go up against top tier passers, that's when it all kind of breaks down. But I don't want to focus on the negative there too much, because I think Herbig will be a huge part of this team, hopefully moving forward, for years to come here. He could be the next in a long line of really solid pass rushers for them.
And Derek Harmon as well, like, I think has been promising in his first 2 games of his NFL career. Not just like he's had some splash plays, but I think you're just seeing that defensive line is a whole lot deeper now. And that was the thought with him coming in, is like, not only is he potentially a game changer in his own right, but now you have him, you have Hayward, you have Benton. You lucked into Y.A. Black. I mean, lucked into it, right? Like, you made that decision and drafted him. But he's been a viable defensive lineman. I don't think he's been great, but moving Loudermilk out and like not having to play Logan Lee big snaps, your run defense is a lot stouter. And I thought they were good today. Like, they tackled well. They didn't need to bring a lot of pressure on Wentz, and they won. And you're always going to have a good defensive performance when you're getting home and you're able to play coverage. And like, they played a lot of shells on the back end to try to keep Jefferson and Addison in front of them. It worked for the most part. But I'm encouraged, and I'm also encouraged by the linebackers. I think Patrick Queen has looked better each week, and I've been low on him as well.
Yeah.
And I think they're letting him do the things he likes to do, like the things that he does well. They're letting him fly downhill. They're letting him blitz more. I love that. Like, let him be a little Vince Williams-y, where like you're getting some actual pass rush up the middle, because he's best when he plays fast and doesn't have to think and be in coverage. Let Peyton Wilson handle some of that and take the growing pains with it, because it can turn into really important performances from Patrick Queen, and I think he was really good again today. Are there any other players, areas of this defense that you want to highlight? Because I just think all around it was a super solid performance.
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned Elliott. This defense looks a lot different when he's in there, obviously. You know, like I think there's a reason why he was extended this offseason. I mean, I've been really impressed with his leadership, how seamless the kind of you know, I know we might have overrated Minka a bit here in Pittsburgh for, you know, last year. However, you know, that's still a big time player to lose in your secondary. And the fact that, you know, their safety core hasn't suffered too much, you know, despite losing him, I think really speaks to Elliott, you know, and you know, like I mentioned, the communication on the back end. So that's something that I really noticed, you know, today. And I hope that they can kind of take it into the bye and moving forward.
And we can maybe look forward a little bit. I don't know that I have, until deep diving things and maybe looking at some different stuff, I don't know that I have so much more on the defense, because it looked like a Steelers defense a lot more. Like it was a good day. Like this was a good
day. We don't have much negative to say.
This was a good game. They played really well. Like they outplayed the Vikings pretty soundly, and the head coach let them back into the game. Like I will not come on. I need to like write it on a chalkboard a million times. I will not come on every Instant Reaction podcast and say that the Steelers need to fire Mike Tomlin, but so Steelers have a bye next week, and then it's Cleveland, which that defensive line is terrifying. So I think that game can be a little bit scary, but it's still probably Joe Flacco, maybe Dylan Gabriel. Then it's Cincinnati. You got through this early stretch 3-1, and this is something I wanted to pose to you. I've been very down on this team, I think rightfully so. There may be a Caleb Johnson kick return gaff touchdown away from being 4-0.
Yeah.
Do you allow yourself to think bigger things? I don't, but do you?
Okay. No, because I watched last season. I watched last season. Honestly, you know, like I just like I'm not saying this is the same team. I will never say that. But one thing last season taught me is just to be cautious. You know, so I am cautiously optimistic. You know, I guess, especially when you factor in where the rest of the AFC North is to start the season, I think the Steelers have a very good chance of kind of emerging as, you know, I wouldn't say favorites. I still think Baltimore's going to win the North. However, you know, they play the Chiefs this week, correct? So, and, you know, the Bengals don't have Burrow, and the Browns are the Browns. So, like, all of a sudden, you're looking at a situation where Steelers go to the bye. Let's say they can beat Cleveland, which, you know, is still, you know, I think more of a toss up than people realize. The Browns have played people really tight so far this year for the most part.
Like that.
Yeah, right. And you know, to your point, the defensive line there is just, you know, scary when you factor in the Steelers' offensive line as well in pass pro. Yeah, I'm definitely cautiously optimistic, but I will definitely not let myself think about bigger things. My pick before the season was best case scenario, they make the playoffs and win a playoff game. I don't think that's changed for me. That to me is still their best case scenario, which is a good year considering what they have been the last
considering they haven't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah.
I still don't think they can win a playoff game.
So,
like, I'm still not sold on that.
Yeah.
I still have, and a lot of those concerns are offensive line and Aaron Rodgers related. Not to say nothing of this defense against some of the, I mean, they faced one of the better play callers today, but it was a backup quarterback. And to that, like, I went back and looked at last season's schedule because I was thinking about making an argument early last season. It was Kirk Cousins off his Achilles, Justin Herbert, who hurt his ankle in the middle of the game, Bo Nix. Like, you're beating a lot of quarterbacks that had some pretty big question marks. Like, then you beat Vegas, and I think it was Aiden O'Connell. and you beat Rodgers and the Jets, and you beat the Giants. Like it was not a murderer's row. But then I looked, and to your point with like not getting caught up in it because of what happened last season, I went back to look, and I was going to say like, oh, this is the Steelers beating another backup quarterback, beating another bad quarterback again. They beat Lamar, they beat Burrow, they beat Jaden Daniels. Like they were beating teams last year for real. Like there was some flukiness to those games, 18-6 against the Ravens. Like maybe you throw it out, especially the way they got dump trucked in the playoffs. But the NFL is just so weird. Like that was my takeaway, was like the NFL is so weird. And until you get into those one game scenarios where everyone's truly game planning for just your week and it's super bespoke, I don't think you can tell like what every team fully is. Some teams treat certain games that way. I don't think last year those good teams were treating the Steelers that way. And at the end of the season, like they got rolled by them. So, but I was going to try to make that argument of like, oh, there they go. They beat Drake May, Justin Fields. And like, I think Drake May's good, but like they had needed 5 turnovers to do it.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields and Carson Wentz. And we're going to go saying this team's fixed. Like we're heading into the bye, riding high, winning the division.
God, no.
But they actually like beat some real heavy hitters last year. So maybe they'll be able to do it again. There are definitely some coming up after the bye, aside from Flacco and Browning coming right out of it. Then you get the Packers and Jordan Love. You get Indiana Jones, which looks like a lot more of a threat. Yeah, who would have thought that? But I'm not changing my outlook. I refuse to do so. Even when I was as down could get on this team, I still said the lowest they're going to go is 8 wins. Like this is not even all the structural issues on defense and the problems with Rodgers. I was not going to go any lower than 8 wins. I'm not going to go any higher than 10 wins. Feeling good about this game. The head coach is a big reason for that and those issues I mentioned. But I feel I couldn't come on here and be negative Nancy today. And I usually can find a way. Like other than Tomlin decisions, this was a really good performance.
Yeah. I really don't have much bad to say about this game outside of Tomlin. I really tried to come on here and just be an excited fan, because that's kind of what what this was. They played internationally, they played in front of a national audience, they played well. At least early in the year. I wish it ended a little better, because like I think it might have sent a bit more of a message. But we're like 1/4 of the way through the year. Like it's too early to 1/4. Math isn't my strong suit.
Well, almost. We used to be 1/4 of the way through the year with 4 games, but now
too
I hate that they screwed up that math. Like it was so nice that it was just quarters.
Too early to be making such a bold proclamation. So we'll see. I think they're set up really well, to my point about the North. Like they're set up very well coming out of the bye too. Like you have Flacco, Gabriel, and Jake Browning. So they should end that stretch 5-1. If they don't, I think that's probably an indictment on them, and we'll come back on this pod and rant. But
about before we go, about the Ireland of it all. Like we're both back here stateside, obviously. Not heading over there. I would have loved to. It was pretty cool, right? Like, do you have any thoughts about it? Like, it was really cool. Like, I hate the Europe games generally, just because the NFL does not need to own more of my life. They've already bought my Thursdays. They have my Mondays. They have all day Sunday.
Yeah.
I like to go. I told this story last week on the Instant Reaction Pod. Like my Sunday mornings, I wake up, I go to the trail, I go for a long run, I get outside, and then I go sit on the couch and watch football all day. After watching football all day on Saturday, like I need that window. You take it away from me. But this was really cool. Like it was a cool showcase. I think this was cooler than some of the England ones, maybe just because the Steelers are playing in it. but it felt pretty unique. And I liked a lot that it was Joe Davis and Greg Olsen. That made it feel like
Olsen
a bigger game than like, I love Rich Eisen, but when it's Rich Eisen, you're like, oh, this is like an NFL Network Saturday game. Like he's obviously at ESPN now, but you know, there's just a feel that they can create for these things, and this one felt important.
Yeah, I think what separated this from a lot of the Europe games is that there was a connection between the Steelers and Ireland with the Roonies. I thought that I mean, there's a reason why it felt like a Steelers home game. It's because there's already a lot of Steelers fans over there because of the Rooney family. I mean, Art's, Art Rooney, the founding owner of the Steelers, his great grandparents were right off the boat. So like, you know, that made it very cool to me. You know, Dan Rooney was the ambassador
from
so
09 to 12, I think.
Yeah. They showed the graphic during the game. I forget the exact years, but yeah, it was I thought that part of it was really cool. Whereas most, like, you know, London games or elsewhere, it's you know, the teams are either kind of random or teams that don't, you know, teams like the Jags who maybe don't sell out a lot at home. You know, but like having the Steelers there in Dublin, it was a unique atmosphere, you know, and like there wasn't anything dramatically wrong with the field. I saw a few tweets about it. With players slipping, but like, you know, I don't
players
think
slip like
caused
sometimes.
Injuries necessarily. It's like I feel like they did a really good job. The only issue this week was the unfortunate Skylar Thompson incident that happened last night, and you know, our thoughts go out to him. But you know, hopefully he's good. And outside of that, it was a great week. Yeah,
absolutely. I would be cautiously in favor of the Steelers like doing this again. I think it was really cool. And that connection that you mentioned, I think was a cool part of it. I just wanted to bring that up because like this was a unique aspect of this game. So I felt worth touching on as we wrap up here. Any parting final thoughts from you about what was the Steelers, even though they almost choked it away, most complete win of the season?
I think part of what bothered me so much about the Tomlin decision, and I feel like, you know, sorry to end us on a negative note. Part of what bothered me is that, you know, the Steelers went, you know, they waited for Aaron Rodgers for forever this offseason, right? Like he was very clearly their plan A for, you know, the vast majority of the offseason. They have apparently built this offense kind of around him a little bit and his strengths at this point in his career. And, you know, you're not buying into that identity, you know, whether it's him or the run game when it matters most. And, you know, outside of the playing in your fears, outside of all that, like, if this Steelers team is going to be any different than the Steelers teams of, you know, last year, really since Ben retired, or even late career Ben, that's going to have to change. You know, if you lose by that sword, then so be it. But like seeing Tomlin kind of coach this conservatively on a big stage, you know, I know it's only week 4, but it is a national showcase game. That's a little deflating for me. However, you know, again, really nice to see, at least offensively and defensively, they played really, really well. Special teams, they had the blocked kick, but you know, outside of that, very complete game. But yeah, the Tomlin stuff is just going to irk me for a bit, and I have to get it out of my system.
I was not surprised at all by the Tomlin decision, and not to relitigate it like that. Yeah, like that's how he coaches, and to win in the modern NFL, you got to make those plus expected value decisions, and going for it was the right analytical move. In that case, like it was the right decision by your gut, by everything. Like it was the right decision to make, and he made the wrong one, but they still escaped. The Steelers are 3-1 heading into the bye week. We'll be back with our instant reaction shows. Maybe I'll get you to join me for my Monday show next week on the bye week. We'll have to see if we can work something out with Mark Powell, but if not, we'll be back for our instant reaction show the week after as the Steelers return to play against the Cleveland Browns at Acrisure Stadium on October 12th. I'll have my deep dive show tomorrow on Monday at 1:30 going live on YouTube, so make sure you're subscribed. And then Tommy Jagai and Shane Kubis on Wednesday breaking down this game and looking ahead into the bye week in this case and everything going forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So make sure you're subscribed to the Steel Curtain podcast to get all of that throughout the season. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mark Powell. I'll talk to you tomorrow, listeners. And until then, as always, go Steelers.